So we cover these new terms. Some of the definitions I'll be giving you are right in the back of the book. So if I go too fast, well, flip to the back of the book and look it up. The ones I take a little more time on are ones that the words don't completely tell you what's going on. First term we have is chorale. Now, we're talking in the Baroque period, and when they're using the term chorale, it's usually regarding Lutheran church melodies. And the idea behind a Lutheran chorale is just everybody singing the same note together, pretty much in the vernacular. Kind of like what you would do if you go to church now, when the whole congregation sings a song. There's no parts handed out, you just basically sing the song. Everybody sings pretty much the same note. Men may sing a little lower than women, but that's about the only difference. That's pretty much what a chorale is. Now, opera is a big deal here, and we're going to cover opera in the next slide, and there's quite a few test questions on opera, but the actual definition: an extended sacred choral, I'm looking at oratorio, excuse me. Let's try again. An opera, a dramatic stage production that involves soloists who sing arias and recitatives, solo ensembles, choruses, dancing, dramatic action, costumes, staging, and orchestral accompaniment. It began at the beginning of the Baroque era and evolved into a genre that continues in popularity throughout the Western world, particularly in Italy. Alright. Now, ornamentation, he's the hardest one to really say. An ornamentation, by definition, is an embellishment of a melody, adding notes for decoration according to established and commonly accepted performance practices found in Western European classical music, music of many nations and cultures, and all forms of popular music and jazz. I was just going to take a simple little melody. You could take like the introduction to Top Gun. I think most of you know that. Let them go. If we play the same thing, but we embellish it, nothing too elaborate, but just putting in the little trills in between notes. A trill is when you hit a note right next to the one you're playing. That sort of a thing. Sliding into notes. You can do the same thing with your voice. I can't really trill with my voice because I stink too bad as a singer, but a good singer can do the same thing. Those are examples of melodic ornamentation. A tonality, this is one, if you've never played music, is going to be a little lost, but just to get through and pass a definition. Tonality is the gravitational pull of music towards a tonal center, the key of the music. Alright, so if we're in, see, I hate singing for you guys because I know how horrid I am, but if I hit that chord, most of you will want to end up singing a note that is at least related to that. Why are we singing notes that mean something with this chord? There is. And if you do a Tom Petty or what I just did a second ago, and kind of get notes like this, it doesn't really sound good and doesn't really have any tonality. So normally when you have a harmony change, your voice also changes to match the tonality. Alright. And by playing mostly notes that refer to a given chord or harmony or scale or whatever, your music can be said to be tonal. And now comes a tricky one, the continuo. Alright, this is a pretty important one for jazz cats like me. The classical people don't always love the continuo because, you know, it's not a perfect example of form. Sorry, classical people. Anyway, continuo is a technique for providing a harmonic basis in the new homophonic music of the Baroque period. It was a style of accompaniment for a singer or one or two solo instruments. The basso continuo, or bass line, provided the underlying structure for the harmonies, and it usually was played on a cello. The chords were not completely notated and were improvised on a keyboard instrument, usually a harpsichord. The performer determined what chords to play from the bass line and the figured bass, which is the same as the basso continuo, by the way. The figures were numbers written below certain notes of the bass line as a musical shorthand to indicate the harmonies. That should take care of both of those words. But what that really was a way of writing chord symbols like we have today. Today we'll see a C chord and you know, okay, I play C, E, G, and you don't have to read them on a music staff. You know, I play something like that. Lovely. But the figured bass might have 1, which would mean, oh, if we're playing a C chord and the bass note written is a 1, you play the C. Then it might have 3. Alright. Then it might have 5. There you go. 1, 3, 5. If you count in the key of C, C is 1, D, E is 3, F, G is 5. Playing the note C, E, G would be written 1, 3, 5 under a note that you're playing in a basso continuo or figured bass. So, anyway, another thing to remember there on the continuo is that is usually played by the cello, and often the cello and the piano simultaneously, or excuse me, cello and harpsichord simultaneously.